You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean. Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Game of Thrones After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Game of Thrones After Show.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Game of Thrones AfterBuzz After Show, because Bing is for doing, and that is what we're doing, some Fair in the Maiden Fair. And I'm here with some very lovely maidens across the way. The lovely Kristen Snyder.
Hello, guys.
And next to her, Sara Stretton.
Hi, and I just give a shout out real quick. Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Aww. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Kristen, would you like to?
Hopefully they got our pro flowers.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they did. I'm sure. And guys, I'm Dave Klein, and in the booth we got Stephen Lemieux.
What's up, guys? I'm just chilling in the booth watching Dave talk.
Okay, that's the way to do it, right? I'm watching myself in the monitor. Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm like that. Okay, so let's jump into the wall, because that's where we start off with this episode, which is Jon and Ygritte are now south of the giant wall they had to climb, and they are presumably heading towards Castle Black to start fighting and start a war. So Ygritte is questioning the tactics of the king's people, and they're sort of arguing a little bit. And afterwards, we get the warg coming over, and Jon is not too happy with him for some reason. I don't know why.
I mean, it's interesting because they've developed such like a friendly, flirty, young romance, and I really like it because I feel like out of all the relationships we were seeing, theirs has a different dynamic to it. They kind of poke at each other, but then they have these like rushes of passion, and they make fun of how each other lives. And I like that because I feel like it makes their relationship work. The fact that she pokes at him like being a little lordling, and he kind of pokes at the fact that she doesn't know any of this stuff. She doesn't know what a real building looks like. So, I mean...
Wait, I thought it was Jon Snow who knows nothing. I'm confused. Hold on.
Yeah, I think he's going to be able to turn that on her.
They're learning from each other.
Yeah.
But that was kind of a cute scene, the whole scene with the windmill and how fascinated she is by it, because they have nothing like that north of the wall.
She thought it was a castle, right?
Yeah, she thought it was a castle. So she's like, is that a castle? I've never seen stone stacked that high before.
He should have been like, yes, it's definitely a castle.
Oh, well, he's going to impress very soon.
Well, I mean, I'm totally forgetting his name. The other guy, creepy man, who's in love with her.
Oh, the warg. I don't
Yeah.
remember his name either, but he's a warg.
If you know his name, please let us know.
The crow.
I thought it was interesting that he was like pointing out that she only likes him because he's pretty, and she only likes him because of all the nice stuff he comes. But like, Jon Snow's conversations with her completely counteract that. Like every conversation they had, like just makes light of the situation of they come from these different backgrounds, and it makes them, to me, more compatible than a detracting factor from the relationship.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's those differences that can bring you together in ways. That's how you complement each other as well.
Exactly.
But they do have a sort of more serious fight. It ends up being resolved just fine, but it's over the war tactics that they're talking about, and Jon just straight up tells Ygritte that the wildlings just don't have the discipline to face the armies of the north, or I guess south, according to Ygritte, but they just don't have the discipline for it.
I don't know if it's discipline, but they just haven't been taught in the right way of how to fight, is what he was saying.
Right.
And they don't know, because they've tried 6 times, and they failed all 6. And he's pretty confident that they would not be able to take it. But they have him, which is like the inside knowledge that they've been lacking. So I think that's why, especially Mance Rayder thinks that they would be able to take Castle Rock.
Yeah.
But what he mentions is that they don't have the teamwork, and
Well,
I
that's
think
where the
his
discipline
example
comes from.
Well, I think his example is he cut the rope to let him die, as opposed to they're trained to be, the Night's Watch are trained to save each other.
Well,
as
that's
opposed
just like
to
the
cut 'em
whole
free.
way of Westeros.
Yeah.
Is that you kind of fight for the people who are on your side, and that's just not how the North operates. But on top of that, it's if they wanted organization, they could get it from Mance. Like, he's knowledgeable about their war tactics. They already have his knowledge if they really wanted it. But his only uniting slogan for them is that don't die, fight together, run south. He's never made an attempt to train them, so I don't see them starting now just because Jon's there.
Yeah,
they
well,
come from the same background.
It sounds like they have a trick up their sleeve.
I mean, I think that's the only way for the wildlings the way they are, because anytime you hear Grit talk about the way that the wildlings are, they just don't know any other way, and they don't want to be any other way. They want to be free. They don't want to have that sort of discipline to do that type of stuff, and that's just the way they are. But Toast of War on the chat, and Reek Rhymes with on the chat chiming in on the warg's name. His name is Arel. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think you know, it ends up being all right for the two of them because all Ygritte really cares about at the end of the day is this romantic notion of that basically they're together, they're connected.
But she seemed a little turned on by the silk dress option.
That's true.
Like, I think part of her wants this little fanciness. Somewhere deep inside of her, there's a girly girl that
You
would
guys-
faint and swoon.
Do you guys think that anything that Arel said to her sank in? What do you think her effect of that conversation with him was?
It seems she seemed flustered by it, but I mean, by the end of the episode, it seemed like she didn't seem to care because it seems like she already pretty much knows that Jon is still deep down cares about the wall, you know. So I don't know how much it really affected her.
I think it's more of a warning sign. I don't think that he's scared about hurting Jon Snow to get him away from her.
Yeah, so you think there might be a battle in the future?
I don't even think it's going to be battle. I think it's going to be like deception.
So another thing that happened during this, and obviously with the silk dress, it was also Tormund Giantsbane giving Jon a little bit of advice on sex. And that kind of brings to light the fact that there was a lot of sex in this episode. This was very sex heavy.
So much.
Because that's what mothers
much
want for Mother's
skin.
Day.
There was so much
Definitely
skin
not.
in this episode. It was like every frame I was looking at a different body part.
So, but by him trying to explain to Jon how to go about the ways of a woman, they clearly don't know that he's had sex with Ygritte yet. So that also proves that she's been loyal to keeping her word.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So,
Wouldn't they have figured it out by now? Like, come on.
but I mean, he did break his bonds by doing that. That was something you cannot do as part of the Night's Watch. You can't do that. And Jon is very strict on himself, so that was a big breaking point for him.
True.
But let's move on to Rob and Rob's point of view, because that was the next point that we got, which is he's with Talisa and his council, which kind of consists of Catelyn and Edmure, and they're running a little bit late to Edmure's wedding. Just a little late, and talking about how they don't think that the Freys will be too happy about this. Another slight to the Freys.
I mean, what can you do? It's the weather. It happens. I mean, I don't think they're really trying.
Yeah, it was
that
pretty
hard,
much. It was
but-
raining It was raining up a storm. Literally, it was raining very hard. That was no
I was
anything.
like, am I missing a joke?
No.
I was like, was that a joke? No, I mean, and then we get that weird stare from Catelyn as she like walked out of the tent. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah.
Well, that was as Talisa and Rob were making out, so it's probably just like her thinking, "This is your doing. This is all your fault."
It's probably not the moment to kiss.
I thought there was something more in that stare. It was like I understand her being disappointed in Rob's choices, but she should have gotten over it by now. She's made far bigger mistakes than he has. And does she not like Talisa as a person?
I think she's just upset about the decision because one of the words of the Tullys is honor, and there's another one, but it's basically you have to do. Just like the Starks, they're very honor driven. They will do what's necessary and what they promise to do. They don't break promises. So the fact that Rob broke his promise to the Freys, I think, really bothers her because that is who she is.
But
You don't do that.
the first word is family, and he is her son, so she should stand by him.
Well, she has been standing by him. I think she's just not happy with the entire situation.
And what Talisa represents.
Right, and what Talisa represents. But I mean, they're also going to the phrase, which she's also worried about. I think, was she the one who points out that they're not going to be happy and they might take this as a slight?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more her that's worried about it than Rob, and that's probably the bigger deal here. Is Rob's just not making that big of a deal out of, making
Right,
sure that
because
they're
he's
not
kind of like
late
trying to
and-
play it off like, well, Edmure's a better catch than they could have ever gotten.
Yeah.
I mean, she was the first like broker in this whole shindig with the phrase, so I'm sure she just feels like, it's like when you make a deal with someone and it falls through on their end, you automatically feel bad because it was like, oh, I kind of played a part in this, but nothing I could do. So
How do you think
It's
she's
that
gonna
pressure.
feel about being a grandmother? Happy Mother's Day
Yeah, there we go.
to Talisa.
Good transition. Yeah, so Talisa is preggers, and she just knows. And big news for Rob. And also, apparently, her mother, Talentis, doesn't know that they're even married. She has no idea. But yeah, she's pregnant, and so that means that, if, no matter what happens, there is some sort of son now,
I mean, I don't believe Talisa, and it was clear in my eyes that Rob was sort of questioning her as well whenever she was writing in a different language that he clearly didn't understand. I don't know if she's writing her mother. I really doubt she probably even has a mother. I don't think that he's ever gonna visit Volantis and I don't think she's writing her mother. I don't trust her, and I didn't think that Rob did for a moment whenever he realized she was writing in a different language that she knew he wouldn't understand.
Yeah, that was pretty weird, I have to say.
I'm gonna trust her. I think that she does have family across the street. She knows too much. I feel like she gives off the vibe of being highborn, and she obviously writes in Valyrian or whatever. I think she does come from a noble family, and I think that they're gonna play a big part later, just with the other people who are over there too.
Yeah. Well, could be. And with that, let's move on to some very highborns, the kings and queens of King's Landing.
I have a question before
Yes.
we get to King's Landing. If Talisa is preggers and has a son, does that take all the inheritance away from Sansa?
It would, yes.
Yeah, so this whole plotting in King's Landing over Sansa because she might rule the North one day kind of goes out the window.
Right. So no matter what happens, if this son is born, that would technically be the new Lord of Winterfell.
All right.
So yeah, they are scheming away about it over in King's Landing, and that's what we get with Sansa, who is the pawn in all of this, who's upset about it and confiding in Marjorie. Not too happy because Tyrion, at the end of the last episode, had just broken the news to her. Now we finally get her reaction to everything.
She does admit, though, that Tyrion has tried to be nice to her.
She did give him that. She wasn't as I expected her to be weeping and all over the place, and she's pretty calm and put together about this marriage. Although I guess she hadn't thought about the fact that she was going to have sex with him. I guess
Yeah,
that was
that
a
didn't-
idea.
She was like, I'll have to, we'll have to.
Which is even more so something not to be happy about. But Marjorie does make a good point to her that he actually is nice to her. He's treated her well so far. So of all the various Lannisters that she could have ended up with, she has to look at the bright side of things, which is at least it's the one who's nice, who's not Joffrey, because when she first met Sansa, she tells her that you looked miserable when I met you, when you were with Joffrey, the very first time. So she does make that point of trying to make the best of the situations that you're put into.
And most don't know what they like until they've tried it. It's a good
Or
point.
your
Yeah.
mom can tell you things.
Yeah, apparently Marjorie's been around the block a little bit.
Yeah, she sounds a little bit experienced.
She knows a thing or two.
What are you talking about?
Street cred.
Her mother told her everything.
Oh yeah, what was I
Always.
thinking?
Come on.
I like how
Yes,
Sansa just
child.
buys that too. Is like, oh yeah, of course your mother would tell you that. Yeah.
I mean, I think what we've gained from this is Sansa is extremely sexually naive. She kind of misses everything in that realm.
We got Cool Like Han Solo. They on the chat saying that the way that they introduced this to Sansa, it was different from the book, and he's not happy about that. And Lady Friend Love, disappointed in Sansa just in general this season, going, "Oh, shut up, Sansa." So people not too happy with the way Sansa's been treated, or at least acting in the show.
How's it approached in the book?
she finds out a little bit later on, but I just don't want to say in case it spoils anything. So don't want to say. But maybe a future episode, I'll say when it would have been. Secrets. But we got Tyrion is also upset, and Tyrion's confiding in Bronn, and because that's his main man, Bronn. And Tyrion thinks that she's too young, and also concerned about Shae, that Shae will be pissed off. So Tyrion's just not happy about the whole situation either.
I really like what Bronn says to him, though. If you waste time trying to get people to like you, you'll be the most popular dead man. So I agree with that, and I think he should just move forward and do what he needs to do, although I do feel bad for Shae. But I honestly, after hearing her explanation of, if she was to have children with him, Tywin would come hunt them down and kill them right away. So that's, whenever I'm with a guy, I always think about my children, unfortunately. And that's something that's a deal breaker.
Yeah, she seems to be kind of on the fence with their relationship. Like, I could see her walking out on him very shortly.
Yeah.
She's sad.
But, for whatever reason, so the other thing with Tyrion is that that Bronn mentions to Tyrion is that he kind of brings up this point that, well, I bet you want to have sex with that Stark girl, which I'm kind of glad they brought it out that way because it's hard to do thoughts in the book. And this is actually something Tyrion thinks is at first he's not attracted to Sansa, but when he ends up thinking about it further, he decides that he is attracted to her, even though she's so young. And I don't think you can really vocalize his thoughts. So it's kind of a way for the show to vocalize a character's thoughts, is you have to put them in some other character's mouth. So with that, let's move on to Lord Tywin, who's speaking with Joffrey. And he, again, just showing his power. He always does this, always one-ups someone.
He is the most clever man with his words, and just how he uses his body and his presence. Like, he puts so many thoughts across without having to say them, like when he climbed the stairs. But what he says, if you wrote it down, would seem like so loyal and servantish and proper. But how he says it and what he does, you're like, okay, I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
You own the room.
And I just love the way that he just stepped up the steps to just look powerful and menacing before he finished his line to Joffrey.
Who I think was wearing eyeliner.
And he didn't
Joffrey's
want to climb any stairs to get to the meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of hard work, so you can be carried. That's the solution. But Joffrey is afraid of the dragons. He seems very concerned about the dragons, and Tywin doesn't seem to believe a word that the dragons are back. So actually, from what we know, because we've seen Essos, is that Joffrey actually does have a reason for concern.
His first word of being smart and actually, I guess because he feels threatened and Tywin doesn't.
Right.
But I was like that he actually was concerned about it, and it was also very funny that Joffrey wants meeting minutes.
Yeah.
Delivered to him rather than being carried to
At
the
least
meeting.
he's curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could always, as Tywin points out, come to the meetings. He's invited to all of them.
He's been so busy, though. He's been crossbowing horse. Come on.
Yeah, if I had a choice of what I would do, I guess, I don't know what would take precedent. I'd have to think about it.
He's been really busy.
We now need a barrier.
Glass.
The table's not enough. Just prop it up.
Not if you're going to bring a crossbow.
No crossbows in the studio.
I only have swords.
Yeah.
So, him throwing off his power. And the dragons, though, really, though, like you said, Kristen, I agree with you. This is sort of his first point of being smart. And maybe it's not for the right reasons because it's probably coming from a childlike place. But he actually does have real reason for concern here. And Tywin not just kind of using history as the reason not to be concerned that 300 years ago, the last dragon had the skull the size of an apple, I think, or something very tiny. And Tywin just not at all concerned. But it's nice that we got that history lesson, too, about how the throne room used to be decorated.
I don't know if that's completely true, though. I think Tywin is concerned. He's just not worried. He obviously knows what's going on. I don't think that he doesn't believe it. I think he thinks there are dragons. I just don't think he's going to be one to show his fear. I think he's more of a plotter. He's taking this in a very, systematic way where he has a plan of what he's going to do if this does happen, but he's not going to come in panicking, and least of all to Joffrey.
Right, because they did know about Daenerys having a baby, having a child, and being with Khal Drogo back in season 1. So you got to think that they still know what's going on in Essos, and they would actually know about the dragons.
I don't know. I was pretty convinced after his speech that they don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but Joffrey wants to be consulted.
It
from
does
here
seem
on
like
out.
he would be more concerned if, Tywin seems like the type of guy. But regardless, we've got Tyrion and needing to break, or already broke the news to Shae, but now he's trying to make it up to her with some golden chains. But she's having none of it. She is pretty pissed off.
Shae's always I like her, but she has a little bit of like a pissy streak to her, where sometimes she gets, and sometimes I think she's joking, but with the gold chains, I was just like, yeah, you're spinning this to make it just symbolic, but you're kind of annoying me. She was kind of whiny.
I mean, she's always on fire, in my opinion, but I mean, she has reason to be, but at the same time, like, she's choosing to be there in a way. I mean, she came there on her own. She wasn't originally anyone's maid,
Right.
I don't think. I mean, it seemed that she came there and then he got that job for her. So I don't know what her plan or agenda was from the beginning. She's kind of choosing this life at this point.
And Tyrion had warned her multiple times, like, you shouldn't come with me and things like that. So he had tried to warn her that this was going to be a tough situation for her to be in. But yeah, I like this too, because this is actually where it does differentiate from how they handle Shae in the books. And I don't want to talk too much about it, but she cares a lot more about the Sansa thing in the show, which I like. I like that they're doing that, and I'll talk more on it in a different episode. But I do like that they're doing that and making her, she's actually upset about everything. So speaking of Essos, which we were talking about, we've got Daenerys, who is hanging out there with her dragons, and she has just come across Yunkai, the Yellow City. So that's because whereas Astapor was the red city because it had red bricks, Yunkai actually has yellow bricks, and that's how it's built because of the pyramids, giant yellow bricks, as we get to see in the long shot of it. So that's a little background for you guys as to why it's called the Yellow City. But Jorah advises her to skip over Yunkai. He doesn't want her to try and take it over.
He says there's no reason.
Right. So he just thinks there's no reason, and she asks how many slaves there are when he tells her 200,000, and that gives her 200,000 reasons to go attack Yunkai.
She's the mother of dragons, but also the breaker of chains.
Yep, new title.
She's getting those titles.
I like it.
So they're starting to build up. But so Dany ends up meeting with about this one particular guy from Yunkai, the representative from Yunkai, and he offers them gold and ships. So here's money and ships to leave us alone. So that is the way they tried to handle it.
To which she didn't take that very kindly. I mean, she took it kind of kindly. She let him live, in her words, but she wants all of the slaves to be freed. What did you think about that?
I just liked how she said that they were talking about how proud people don't bend, and she's like, well, what happens to things that don't bend? So clearly, I mean, she's going to take them and blood will be shattered next episode, I have no doubt. And I can't wait to see the Solid actually, like, at
Fight
work.
something.
Yeah, fight something. Oh, so far, they've just been like blocks.
Yeah. But, I mean, she's taking control here, though, and really showing off her power, because the moment that he's talking about how powerful Yunkai is and whatever about dragons, we're not Astapor, she throws some meat in the air to pretty much show off into his face what the dragons are like and what they can do.
This is my power.
Right. It's just a way of showing it without saying anything. Show, don't tell. That's what we learned from Dany.
I felt like the storylines didn't really deliver this episode. It was a lot of build-up and nothing really delivered. Like here, what she should have done is like incinerated him in front of his people so that they could go back.
That's already been done.
I guess, and then I just felt with all the storylines there was build-up, but we didn't actually get to see what was about to happen in all the storylines. Just like Theon, and we didn't see the end of that conclusion. We didn't see anything happen with the bear. There was like a lot of build up this episode and no delivery, in my opinion.
It does seem, I agree with you, that it does seem like this was an episode to build up and kind of make just for future episodes. It was sort of a setup episode to kind of pay off later. So just building things up.
I feel like they could have paid off some storylines and continued that. I just didn't feel like this episode I don't know, delivered as much as other episodes did. It was
Like you're
kind of
standing on the edge the whole time.
the entire
Yeah.
time, and I never got that, oh, I love Game of Thrones moment.
There are scenes that they extended out this episode that didn't happen in the books, which I think they're doing so they can make it so Storm of Swords, which is the book they're basing it off of, they can make it so it's 2 seasons. So I think they're trying to extend it out and make a full season out of this. But this is kind of the first time I've really felt a bit of a lull this season. And I think next episode we are going to start getting those payoffs. So I think this was really the only episode
Right.
that we're going to get
Filler
that bit of a lull.
episode. This was the filler episode, and we only have 3 left.
Yeah, because
so.
honestly, I kind of do agree with you. There were a lot of scenes, for the most part, in this episode we didn't need to have. But bear in mind, I think George R.R. Martin did write this episode, so they are George R.R. Martin approved. Which
Well,
is
I
important.
liked it.
I mean,
so.
I liked all the scenes. I just wanted to see something like
So
come to
you would have
fruition.
been fine if you had all these, but just 1 or 2, you got some more of a conclusion or
or just saw what the scene was building up to, like with the whole thing with Theon. Like we never got to see anything cut off, and the whole thing with Brienne. I wanted
don't
them
want to see anything cut off.
I don't want to see
I
that.
don't want to
it could have
see
just
that.
gone a little bit further, in my opinion. And the whole thing with Brienne and the bear. I wanted someone to be fed to the bear. So,
Sure.
Like
I will agree with you on that point.
Oh yeah, Sarah
completely.
was standing up, screaming, "Push him over!
I wanted
Push Locke
Her
over!"
idea.
Yeah, I wanted
She's-
Locke to be thrown into the bears.
But Sarah
think
was
you're
getting
completely
excited about
right.
that idea while we were
she
watching.
was on my side. We were rewriting the show as watching it.
You really should go right for the show because that would have been perfect. I would have been so happy.
Me
That
too.
would've
I think
made-
everyone
made
would
the
have.
episode.
That would have made the episode, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Just like one thing that pushed it over the edge. That's all I was looking for.
Literally pushed it over the edge. Okay. So,
pit.
final thing though, final thoughts on Daenerys is that there's a powerful friend that apparently the Yunkai, I think Yukai is what he was pronouncing as for plural, but the Yunkai have some powerful friend. She goes to Jorah to ask who it is. They don't know. Who is this powerful friend?
But he's going to find out.
Yeah.
Do
So
we think it's someone
Danny's
from
sending him to
over
find
there
out.
or from Westeros?
I really don't know. I'd imagine it's I'd imagine someone from UK. I'm not sure.
See, I was thinking maybe another city. Like, we haven't heard. Like, Volantis was mentioned, not in that scene, but I want to see more connections made, like between the 2 separate areas. You know, because if
Yeah.
Volantis
Agreed.
comes into play, then that will go tie into Robb and Talisa. Like, complicatedness.
What if
Yeah.
it's the new call?
Oh, like a new Khal Drogo, that type of call?
Well, yeah,
Oh,
because
that
Khal
would be- that
Drogo
would
is
be a
no
cool
longer
twist.
the one
Yeah.
in power.
That would be really cool.
That would be a very cool twist. Hot Pie on the chat kind of clarifying about George writing. He said George wrote most of this episode, but some scenes got moved to the next episode. And if that's Hot Pie in the chat telling us that, it's got to be true.
Obviously true.
Hot Pie hopefully baking Kristen some direwolf bread
Yes,
right now.
please. And Eric tweeted me that he agrees that those letters that Talisa is writing can't be good, and it's the first sign for him that she's no good. Red flag.
So kind of agreeing with you a little bit over there.
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
So let's move on to Melisandre and Gendry, because it's a brief scene, but we get a big moment here where Melisandre breaks the news to Gendry as they're sailing past King's Landing. This is where your father's from. By the way, you happen to be the son of Robert Baratheon.
That's your house.
Yeah, kind
your
of a
house?
big deal.
There's power in a king's blood, she explains, and that was pretty much the whole scene for them.
But she breaks it to him so he can understand by explaining the gold cloaks and why they were after him, which we already knew as an audience, but for him, this is the first time he's realizing this. So, brief scene, but a lot for Gendry to have to take in.
Yes.
I was expecting him to ask a lot more questions, but he was kind of just...
I think it was more of like he knew. He felt it, you know? When something like rings
Yeah, you just
true.
have it inside of you.
I agree with
blood.
that.
You
King's
just know
blood.
things.
And I just have a feeling that, I mean, his father is Robert Baratheon is dead. He probably knew all about Robert Baratheon from living in King's Landing his whole life, so maybe it just didn't interest him that much. It's kind of the way I would take it.
Well, it's going to interest him now.
Yeah, well, now that he's taken for this reason. And cool, like Han Solo on the chat, I agree with you, by the way. It's kind of a maybe possible spoiler, so I'm not going to say it, but I agree with you. And Arya, who used to be with Gendry, Arya is with the Brotherhood right now, and she is so pissed off that Gendry is with Melisandre and Beric sold him out for gold. Not too happy about it. And for the right god, as he explains.
Yeah, she's becoming quite the little dark Child.
Who's your god?
That was really creepy. She needs her mother. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, but she wants to go to her mother. That's where she thought she was going.
Yeah.
Until it turns out that they're going far, far away south for 2 days. So Beric's trying to explain that's not a big deal. They just need to go deal with these Lannisters, have themselves a lion's hunt.
For 20 Lannisters. They don't need to go deal with them. They just want the gold.
Well, part of the Brotherhood Without Banners, though, too, is that the whole idea of this is a raiding camp from the Lannisters. So that would presume that they're going around raiding random villages and killing people. So the Brotherhood Without Banners is sort of the protector of the people. So that's why he's trying to tell Arya, you don't understand. That's what they do as the Brotherhood Without Banners. They're trying to go to protect the people.
Yeah.
I think that's
narrowing the
like,
numbers.
Yeah.
This group that they're after seems to be kind of like their ideal target. Lannisters, money, people they want, to stop hurting everyone. They can't, being loyal to their mission, they have to go.
Right.
It's more important than getting her home.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they exist. That's the whole point of them. So they really do have a good purpose behind what they're doing, but Arya just doesn't see it because she's seeing this perspective of what they did with Gendry. But she runs and flees away, only to run into our good friend, the Hound.
Do you guys think this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing?
Good thing.
Grow to be a good thing. They're gonna develop a friendship. I feel it.
Yeah, I feel like it's been much needed. I mean, she's had so much hate for him in the past, and we saw how he handled Sansa. So I feel like he will do good by her.
And
Yeah.
they're both a little bit of like the outcast. They
Yeah.
need friendship.
Well, we don't know where he was heading when they found him in the first place.
He was heading north.
Yeah, so he was heading towards where the last place of Jon Snow was.
But the question is, why was the Hound in the same exact vicinity as the Brotherhood Without Banners still? Apparently he's been hanging around because
Waiting
he's
for-
still there, ready to grab Arya the moment she ran away. So he's been hanging out around, so
That's a good
seeming to
point.
wait for some sort of opportunity like this. So we'll see where he goes. But we've got the whole storyline with Theon, which I agree, kind of unnecessary. And maybe that's just because I'm a guy and I didn't enjoy this scene as a guy. Not my favorite scene to be watching.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was unnecessary. I mean,
Oh, did you enjoy it?
I did. It added to the torture that we've seen him get. But I was just like waiting for one of them to do something awful to him, and so I was in suspense there. But
The
then it
whole
just
time I
didn't
felt it
happen.
was just pretty obvious, though, that
Yeah.
they were there as a torture device of
Yeah.
some kind.
Agreed.
Yeah, I thought that there was going to be something from the girls that would happen. I wasn't expecting it to be the way they did. And I thought when the guy, the torturer, came out and was blasting his horn, I thought that it was going to be like, ha, I just gave you blue balls. And that was going to be like it. No, a little bit more. It turns out he's going to be chopping off Theon's member.
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, we've seen the way that Theon has mistreated girls before. I mean, not Roz, but
So
like...
clearly he had this coming.
No, still not. But I mean, but it's still, we saw when he was with the girl on the ship that he was kind of mistreating her, and then the way that he was treating his sister before he realized it was his sister.
So you're saying this is karma?
It could be karma.
I think that this Game of Thrones just really has a thing for people without things.
Yeah.
Do you realize how many we have now? Mostly the Unsullied, but
Or have-nots.
it's just sad. We should move on.
Pat on the chat says, "Poor Theon rocking the blue." I think you know what that means. All right, so not the happiest of scenes for any guy watching, I'm sure, but we follow this with Bran, and Bran is hanging out with this crew, and Yara now is annoyed not with the sister, but now with Jojen. That's her new person she's not happy with, Jojen, because he's just sitting around doing nothing, filling Bran's head with dark magic.
Hodor.
Yes, I'm so glad you did that. What do you think about this, Kristen?
Hodor.
Thank you. Insightful.
Very insightful. Yeah, and I love that that's like she's confiding into Hodor about that.
He has all the answers.
He just knows it all. I mean, he would be a great person if you just want, for all you ladies out there who complain that all I want is a guy to just listen. Just listen. Hodor's your man. He'll just listen.
You don't necessarily comprehend.
But he'll listen.
He probably understands Valerian. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think he understands.
He Hodars. He speaks Valyrian. That's why he doesn't understand. Good point.
That would be amazing. I mean, I think he gets what's going on. He just doesn't. He's just not too quick. He's not too witty. But yeah, so basically, Bran, or Jojen's kind of telling and explaining about the Green Dreams, and we find out this story from Yara about she's upset that they're going north, and that's the plan.
You mean Osha?
Osha, yes, thank you. Yara is the sister of Theon. That's why I got that confused, because we were just talking about Theon. I'm sorry, guys.
Rewind.
I'm sorry. Let's rewind. Osha, thank you, Kristen. So, Osha is giving this tale as to why she doesn't want to go past Castle Black. And the whole reason they were taking the Castle Black is that was Maester's plan. But she doesn't want to go north, and we find out this riveting tale that she had to also deal with the White.
I wanted more connection from Bran after this story. I expected him to recognize what she was talking about more, or at least like claim like that there are White Walkers, because a while ago we saw him hearing stories about them, and those were the stories he loved, and I wanted that connection to be made. It, like, you could tell that there was fear and understanding, but I wanted some like vocal assurance or something to come out of a reaction from that story.
I feel like he needs to have a dream about them first so that he can understand them a bit more. And also, I kind of agreed with him, though, that he needs to, you know, go north because that's what his dreams are saying. He doesn't have his legs anymore, so this is all he has. Like, I get it. But at the same time, Osha's just trying to live up to, you know, her promise to get him.
Right. So, I mean, the other thing, though, too, to think about is that there's probably going to be this manhunt now for Bran because the Lannisters are trying to set up this plan with Sansa and everything like that. So I'm sure they're going to try and figure out anything with Bran, because right now they think he's dead. So it is also dangerous for Bran to come out that he's alive, because at least the Lannisters have these things going on in the background. So with that said, let's go ahead and move over to Jaime, because Jaime was the one who probably had the most going on and most happening this episode. And with his first introductory scene is him going to talk with Bran before he leaves, and she's not too happy that she has to remain with Locke, because Lord Bolton is heading to the wedding. He's going to be heading to Robb's, or actually Edmure's wedding. So that's where he's going, but Locke is remaining.
And he just wants some entertainment.
He just wants some entertainment, that's all.
Entertainment.
Which apparently is worth more than gold and sapphires.
Yeah.
His happiness.
At least 300 gold dragons. But maybe he never thought he was going to get all the sapphires in the world. Maybe he finally figured it out. Maybe not. But
I really like what Brienne says, though, that your debt will be paid if you just keep your promise, and that he said that he will return the Stark girls to their mother. So
Yeah, I think that was very important.
I thought that was a great part of that scene.
yeah, that's great, because it just shows how loyal she is. She cares more about this mission than whatever she knows is probably going to happen to her with Locke being there. So she is so dedicated to her cause. She would rather, I mean, at the moment she doesn't know it's going to be the bear thing, but she would rather lose her maidenhood or end up in fighting or die, but at least remain honorable. That is all that she cares about. So also some great insight into her character and how stubborn she is and strong-willed. But we get Jaime then heading out with Locke taunting him that he'll take good care of Brienne. And we've got the Maester, who's no longer a Maester. He lost his chains due to his experiments. What did you guys take away from his experiments or his curiosity?
It made me curious about whether or not he's experimenting on Jaime.
Oh.
Like, if someone's telling you that they like to play with disease as they're treating you, I'd be very scared. And I wouldn't trust him. I mean, I do understand, like, you do need to research to learn more about medicine, but that's scary being in their hands.
I actually, for some reason, I trust him because he's doing these experiments so that he can help more people, and he even made that point of how many people have you killed, And Jaime said he killed countless numbers, but how many did you save? 500,000. So I
Great
think he, right there, the Maester was trying to say, you know, I've also saved probably more people than I've killed. And I see this as sort of a prediction that he's going to actually develop something for Jaime, and Jaime will actually allow him to experiment on him after they build this trust.
And to grow back his hand.
I don't know about that.
But I agree, though, and I think as much as horrible as it sounds about this experimenting, in this day and age that they're in this world, that's kind of the way that you'd have to go about inventing medicine. There's got to be some way you come up with a medicine. So I think his intentions are pure, but it's just an unfortunate means of doing it. And Jaime also, as you said, Sarah, because it's him who's being treated right now, doesn't really want to hear that. But I just thought it was kind of a cool point that was brought up here. But right afterwards, the Maester tells Jaime the story, or the non-Maester tells Jaime the story about what's about to happen and is in store for Brienne because the 300 gold dragons were rejected. So Jaime refuses to keep heading to King's Landing and forces them to head back. So he is not having any of it, decides that he's going to be, for once, a good guy and go and save Brienne.
Well, he gets them to turn around because he says, I will either tell them that you chopped off my hand or that you saved my life. And,
Power of words.
So, but for him, we saw in the previous episode with Locke where he tried to use his family and it failed with him. This time it worked. So he played the cards correctly this time.
Because Locke's not going to King's Landing and delivering him to his father.
No.
I think it'd be a different story then.
And we got Lady Friendlove on the chat saying, I switched over to Team Jaime tonight. So Jaime's character definitely completely switching from last season where we saw him kill his own kin in the prison cell. And here he is now going and actually doing a noble thing and going to save Brienne. And they head back to Harrenhal where Brienne's in a bit of a mess there. Just a little bit.
I want to talk about...
She's just with a bear. It's fine.
Can I throw out a fun fact real quick?
Go ahead.
Yes, please.
Going back to the Maestro.
Maester?
Yeah, the Maester.
He actually conducts music.
Yes. Well, going back to him, a fun little fact about the medieval times is sometimes that profession would also be used as torturers because they could learn the anatomy as they tortured people, and they would also subject the prisoners to the diseases and then let it spread to a certain point before they experiment on them.
Fun.
So he might have a
Yummy.
different history than you think.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Power to the scientist. I like him.
So, Kristen, what was your point?
I wanted to talk about what you guys think really triggered this change in Jaime.
Oh, I think we've just been seeing it, like, slowly but surely they develop a loyalty to each other, first bonding over fighting, and then just, I think he likes her character. I think that he really respects her, and I don't think in the past we've seen him really respect anyone.
So you think Brienne is something that triggered Jaime's huge change in character?
I mean,
That and losing his hand.
yeah, I think the big thing was losing his hand, because especially, like, to bring some background from the book at least, even before he loses his hand, he's pretty cocky about everything going on, and it really is like the loss of his hand completely makes him question who he is anymore, because before he lost his hand, he always... part of who he is was an extension of a sword, basically, or he considered a sword to be an extension of his hand. So losing that was basically losing himself, and he's now in this mental state of, I don't know who I am anymore. This was who I am, but I don't have that anymore. So I think he's just trying to figure himself out, and I would take the loss of his hand to be the much bigger factor here than Brienne. I'm sure Brienne did gain his trust, and that's why, and he likes her enough to do this, but I think it's the hand.
I mean, I don't think it's just the hand. He lost everything. I think it was a loss of everything. His family, his comfort, his food, everything that he had before was taken away. So I feel like, I mean, that's a great thing to do to a character that people hate, is strip them of everything they've ever known and see what kind of character rises.
Yes, it's great. And how they played out this scene in particular, like, with the bear, I thought was fantastic. It wasn't just someone...
But no one got pushed in.
Okay, true. So, besides that, which should have happened, but the fact that, like, he didn't just throw her a real sword to replace the wooden sword, but he threw himself in there and pushed her out first, that's a completely different Jaime, so...
Yeah.
Agreed.
But yeah, we do get that scene though, and Jaime again, the fact that he utilizes how important he is, he's able to save Brienne because that's why the crossbow is shot at the bear. That's why he's able to get out and survive from Locke, is because who's the bigger card here, me or Brienne? And it's Jaime. So Jaime is able to survive all of this due to that.
And the guy who's delivering him to King's Landing, he's actually, now he can say that this man actually saved him.
Right, true. Very good point. He actually literally did save Jaime now. Whereas Jaime was just using it as a ploy before. He
Right.
literally saved Jaime.
I think it's nice to see Jaime having that connection with Brienne, just because look at his coming up. He's a Lannister. Like, everyone treats them differently, and especially he's the Kingslayer. He killed the king. I mean, he doesn't have anyone who doesn't treat him that way. And then comes along Brienne, he's a prisoner to her, but that kind of puts them somewhat on the same level for this connection to build.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
But I mean, at the same time, even though he's a Lannister, people talk crap about him constantly because of the Kingslayer thing. They were constantly talking bad about him, especially Ned. Ned hated Jaime and would say it straight to his face. But with that said, I do want to say, guys, if you could, before we move on, please comment, please rate us on iTunes and on YouTube, positive or negative. Doesn't matter. We just want to see your guys' thoughts and know how we can make this show better for you guys. Or come join us on the live chat. We are live every week, 8 p.m. Pacific time on Sundays, and you've heard us interacting with the chat. Jump
we love
in,
the chat. The
and
chat
we
is
will
fun.
definitely read off what you guys think. So with that said, I believe we have some news and gossip.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Okay, just some quick things, guys. So the BAFTA Awards, which I can never get the acronym right. What does it mean? British. I can't
It's
do
the-
acronyms. I get all
It's the
the
Film and Television Awards, but British is the B.
for Britain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Game of Thrones won the Radio Time Audience Award, which is the only one voted on by viewers. So good job, Game of Thrones.
Nice.
Keep up all the
Because the viewers
fans.
know what's what.
Obviously, we know best. Also, side little fact. The actress who plays Shae, her name is, I'm going to pronounce it probably wrong. I can't pronounce it. Her last name is Kekilli. Kekilli.
Kekilli?
I don't know. Anyway, she's German. That's probably why I can't pronounce it. And this is the first show that she's ever done in English. So she was like a big star in Germany, and she's kind of crossing over. And I think she's doing really well. So I was
Yeah.
like, bravo. Like, English is getting better. And her co-stars were making fun of her, in particular the imp. He told her that her English is getting so good that he can no longer make jokes in front of her.
I'm sure
Endearing.
Peter Dinklage is sad about that and would love to do that. All right, and before we move on to some predictions, I do want to say thank you guys for commenting on iTunes. Maleficent Mandy. On YouTube, we had Sista in the Hood commenting on Sansa and saying that, and it continues to decline and regression of Sansa's character and arc to pump up other characters. So she's disappointed in the way Sansa's been handled.
How can Sansa regain some love from
I mean, a lot
audience?
of it's just things that are out of her control that have been happening to her. You have to give her credit in that. But Unax78 says, as a book reader, I really appreciate what the showrunners did with the invented character of Roz, because Roz was not in the books. It shows that even for intelligent women in this world, playing the game without the sort of agency which nobility provides can have deadly circumstances, which I think is a good point. And we did
is
get
a
a huge
very-
arc with Roz.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Nonchalanted on what body parts you'd let them take if you were being tortured, Theon style, says, if I were being tortured, I'd let them take my hair. Don't know if that counts as a body part, but that'd be a good choice. Or you could take
Smart.
Kristen's sixth toe.
Yeah, it's
There
my
you go.
sixth though.
Edge323 asks if anyone else wants to see Joffrey get the Theon torture. That too. I don't know if
I mean,
I think-
if he was tortured by a girl, I think I'd be okay with that.
Roz resurrected.
Tortured by Sansa.
Cool Like Han Solo on the chat.
Respect.
Cool Like Han Solo on the chat says that the BAFTAs are the British Academy of Film and TV Awards.
Thank you.
There you go. Academy was the word we were missing.
Yeah, I was like, I can't do acronyms.
And Ankalagan76, to answer your question, I think they will. So let's move on to predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions. So it looks like we're gonna see Dany being warned of danger. So some sort of danger, which could be related to whatever that secret thing that's coming from Yukai is.
Powerful
be.
friends.
Powerful friends. Arya is with the Hound, and they both seem to be in pretty bad moods. So I don't know about that friendship thing, Sarah, but they seem like they're in bad moods.
You have to be in a bad mood for a good mood to happen.
Yes, all in good time.
You just have to get through the storm into the eye.
I don't know. With Arya, I
Okay,
just want
fine.
her wolf to come back.
Yeah.
I just believe it's out there, and they need to be reunited.
I miss the wolves.
It
I want the
looks
wolves.
like Gendry's gonna be tortured, does it not?
Yeah, he was chained up. It does look like something's gonna happen to him.
Because there's power in a king's blood.
And we get a lot of unhappiness from Tyrion. He seems very pissed off about something. We don't know what though, but not a happy camper. So that looks like what's happening. But guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. And we will catch you next week. Once again, I'm Dave Klein. You can find me on Twitter at @TheDaveKlein. That's Klein. Or go to my website, djk-online.com.
I'm Kristen Elizabeth Snyder, and you can tweet me at Cinematic Escape, or you can bang my blog, Cinematic Escape.
My middle name's Elizabeth too.
Aww.
Oh, I have 2 middle names,
Whoa.
but one of them is Elizabeth. Bonding.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.